The Grand Hall of the Celestial Assembly had witnessed countless historic moments over the centuries, but none quite like the one unfolding that day. Hundreds of alien delegates from dozens of civilizations filled the enormous chamber, their varied forms occupying floating platforms, crystalline thrones, and hovering seats designed to accommodate the strange diversity of life in the galaxy. Some were towering insectoid beings with glittering wings, others were smooth-skinned diplomats with glowing eyes, while a few resembled living clouds of energy swirling inside containment fields. Above them all, at the highest level of the chamber, stood the twin thrones of the galactic Empress, symbols of absolute authority across the United Stellar Dominion. The Empress herself had not yet arrived, but tension hung thick in the air as whispers rippled through the assembly. Today was not just another diplomatic gathering. Today was the official welcoming ceremony for humanity into the Dominion. Most alien civilizations had expected humans to remain a minor species on the outer edges of explored space, interesting but insignificant, a young race still learning how the galaxy worked. Yet over the past decade, humans had done the unexpected again and again. They had ended border conflicts between two rival empires simply by negotiating with stubborn persistence. They had rescued a mining colony from a collapsing star using reckless ingenuity that no other species would have attempted. And perhaps most astonishing of all, humans had earned the quiet respect of the Empress herself. Still, no one quite knew what she intended to do today, and the uncertainty made the chamber restless. Standing near the back of the hall among the observers was the last person anyone expected to be important in this ceremony. A single human representative named Daniel Carter. He wasn't a famous diplomat or a decorated war hero. In fact, he had originally been assigned as nothing more than a logistics officer for the human delegation. His uniform was simple, his posture relaxed but alert, and he looked slightly uncomfortable standing among so many alien dignitaries. Daniel had always preferred practical work over politics, and being in the center of the galaxy's most powerful council felt surreal. Still, he had accepted the assignment because someone had to represent humanity's quieter strengths, reliability, calm thinking, and the strange ability humans had to make allies in places others saw only enemies. As the enormous doors at the far end of the chamber slowly opened, a deep silence spread across the hall like a ripple moving across water. Every being present turned toward the entrance as the Empress of the Dominion entered. She was tall even by alien standards, her silver-white robes flowing behind her like liquid starlight. Her species, the Aurelian, were known for their elegant features and luminous eyes that seemed to glow softly with ancient intelligence. The Empress walked slowly through the chamber, her presence commanding attention without effort. Guards in polished armor followed at a respectful distance. Though everyone in the hall knew the truth, she did not need protection. The Empress had ruled for nearly 2 centuries and had personally negotiated or ended more conflicts than most civilizations had experienced in their entire histories. As she ascended the platform toward her throne, the delegates bowed or lowered themselves in their own cultural signs of respect. But just before reaching the throne, the Empress stopped. For a moment, no one moved. Her glowing gaze swept across the vast assembly, studying every species, every ambassador, every rival faction sharing the same space under uneasy peace. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected. Then something strange happened. Instead of sitting on the throne prepared for her, the Empress turned and began walking down the steps of the platform. Confused murmurs spread through the hall as hundreds of eyes followed her movement. She moved calmly through rows of alien dignitaries, passing ambassadors who had ruled star systems and generals who commanded entire fleets. Some of them straightened proudly, assuming she might address them directly. Others looked nervous, uncertain why the most powerful figure in the Dominion was walking among them. But the Empress did not stop for any of them. She continued walking until she reached the very back of the chamber, where the observers stood. And there, standing quietly among them, was Daniel Carter. The entire hall seemed to freeze as the Empress stopped in front of the human. Daniel blinked in surprise, clearly unsure whether he should salute, bow, or simply step aside. For a moment, the two of them simply looked at each other. Then the Empress smiled, a rare and genuine expression that few in the galaxy had ever seen. "Daniel Carter of Earth," she said in a voice that carried effortlessly across the massive chamber. "I believe you are standing in the wrong place." Daniel glanced around awkwardly. "Your Majesty, I'm just part of the support delegation." A ripple of quiet laughter moved through some sections of the hall, though it quickly faded as the Empress raised one elegant hand. Her glowing eyes never left the human. "Support," she repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, that is precisely why you belong beside me." Before Daniel could respond, the Empress turned and gestured toward the main platform where her throne waited. "Walk with me." The request was simple, but the effect it had on the assembly was enormous. Hundreds of alien diplomats stared in stunned silence as the Empress of the Dominion began walking back toward the throne, expecting the human to follow. Daniel hesitated only a second before stepping forward. His boots echoed softly against the polished floor as he walked beside her through the center of the chamber. Every alien present watched the moment unfold, struggling to understand what it meant. The human wasn't royalty. He wasn't even the official ambassador. And yet the Empress herself had chosen him. When they reached the platform, the Empress sat on her throne. Then, without hesitation, she gestured toward the empty seat beside it, a place normally reserved for the highest advisors of the Dominion. "Sit," she said simply. Daniel stared at the seat as if it might explode. "Your Majesty, I'm not sure I'm supposed to." "You are," she replied calmly. Slowly, still unsure how this had become his day, Daniel sat down beside the Empress, while hundreds of alien delegates watched in disbelief. The chamber buzzed with whispers. Some ambassadors were clearly offended. Others were fascinated. A few looked thoughtful, as if realizing something important had just happened. When the Empress finally raised her hand again, the room fell silent instantly. "Many of you," she began, her voice echoing across the hall, "have questioned why humanity was invited into the Dominion so quickly. Your civilizations measure worth through power, fleets, technology, or age. By those measures, humans are still young." Her glowing eyes briefly shifted toward Daniel before returning to the crowd. "But I measure civilizations differently." She paused, letting the tension build. "Several months ago, during a diplomatic mission near the outer systems, my transport vessel suffered a catastrophic failure. A reactor breach threatened to destroy the ship and everyone aboard." A few delegates nodded. They remembered the incident, though the details had never been fully revealed. Panic spread among the crew. The Empress continued. "Escape pods were limited. Calculations showed that many would not survive." Her gaze swept across the hall again. While others argued about priority and protocol, one individual ignored the debate entirely. He climbed into a maintenance corridor filled with lethal radiation and manually stabilized the reactor long enough for every passenger to evacuate safely. She turned her head slightly toward the human sitting beside her. That individual was Daniel Carter. A wave of shocked murmurs swept across the chamber. Daniel looked like he wished the floor would swallow him whole. The Empress raised her voice slightly. "He did not do it for recognition. In fact, he specifically requested that the incident not be reported." Now every eye in the hall was fixed on the human. "When I asked him why he risked his life," the Empress continued, "his answer was simple." She looked directly at Daniel again. "What did you say, Mr. Carter?" Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly before answering. "Someone had to fix the problem, and I was closest." For a moment, the chamber was completely silent. Then the Empress smiled again. "That," she said, "is humanity." She stood slowly from her throne, her voice growing stronger. "A species that does not wait for permission to do what is right. A species that steps forward when others hesitate. A species that sees a problem and solves it, even if it costs them everything." The hall remained silent, but the atmosphere had changed. Many of the alien delegates were no longer confused. They were impressed. "Today," the Empress concluded, "I did not choose a human to sit beside me because of rank or power." She placed one hand lightly on Daniel's shoulder. I chose him because courage and responsibility deserve a place at the highest table in the galaxy." Across the chamber, hundreds of aliens watched the scene with new understanding. The Empress of the Dominion had not just honored one human. She had sent a message to the entire galaxy, and sitting quietly beside her, still looking slightly embarrassed by the attention, Daniel Carter had just become the symbol of why humanity belonged among the stars.